When most people think about changing their diet or their eating, they think about losing body fat or building muscle. But did you know diets can have profound impacts on many things related to your health and other aspects of performance? We're going to talk about the 5 best diets for almost any goal. In other words, which diet is best for the different goals that we often have in our life. Let's go.
Choose your weapon. I love this conversation because this was something, and it was not till later on in my training career did I start to do with my clients, where I took them through for the most part, most of the popular diets, regardless if they really wanted to or not, because I found it as incredibly valuable
revealing
to them how each of them affected them differently, and the pros and cons, and realizing that there's going to be periods in your life where one type of way or one way of eating makes more sense than another way. Mm-hmm. And when you look at how we all personally eat, we don't like, and we've been asked this, well, what kind of diet or how do you guys eat? Well, it changes. There's times in my life when I'm getting after it and I'm trying to build and I'm focused on gaining and I'm eating a certain way. Then there's other times when I'm not doing a lot, and so I'm trying to maintain and not really lose. And then there's other times where I got to be sharp. And so there's and every time I've got a different focus or goal, my diet slightly gets modified and changes.
Yeah, it's just being strategic. I mean, why wouldn't you be strategic with your eating to complement your training or whatever pursuit you're doing? And to understand these diets and like their benefits, I think it's a smart approach. And again, you can work within the foods you're already eating to a certain extent. So it's not like that foreign. You might add or you might subtract some, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to kind of taper that so it fits within these categories.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to look at exercise and diet, okay? Let's just talk about exercise and diet, and we're going to get specific with diet. But I think one of the best ways to look at those two things in the context of I want to be healthy or I want to know how to use them for the rest of my life, okay? Because throughout your entire life, there's going to be times you're going to be more focused on athletic performance or muscle gain or fat loss or stress or cognitive performance, or I need to perform at work or whatever, right? There's going to be life changes, and one of the best ways to use exercise and diet is to modify them to maximize your effectiveness, or in other words, to improve the quality of your life regardless of what's happening, okay? And you can do this with different kinds of diets, and some diets are great for some things, and they're not so great for other things, but that's okay. In fact, that's great if you're after that one thing that it's good for, and if you're not really caring so much about the other thing. Now, to be clear, all diets, so long as you hit your essentials, can be fat loss diets. Okay, so almost any diet can be a fat loss diet, so long as the calories are low enough.
That's typically how these are all marketed.
That's right. They're all typically marketed as fat loss, weight loss diets, because that's what's
because that's the one common thing that most of them have, is that whatever protocol it is, it's designed to have you eat in a caloric deficit.
Yeah.
But the part, and this is why I used to like to teach my clients, because I would show them that you don't have to necessarily do it like that all the time. Yeah. You can eat it at a maintenance or even a surplus in some of these diets we're talking about, depending on what your goal is and what you're trying to achieve from it.
Right. But so let's say that, you have different goals. Like, for example, and I'll talk about the first one, and I'll use myself as an example. Now, by the way, we're going to give recommendations based off of what the data shows. It's not going to be true for every single person.
Serve the individual.
Yeah, like there's always an individual variance. I train enough clients to see this all the time. I had clients who completely bucked the data with certain diets, and I could not, it didn't compute. I couldn't argue though with what was happening, and so I just started to realize like people respond differently to different kinds of diets. But generally speaking, the diets that we're going to recommend today for the specific purposes, the data shows these are the best diets for those things. So I'll talk about the first one, which is cognitive performance. What if your ultimate goal is to maximize cognitive performance? Now, when would this be the case? Well, you got a big project coming up for work, or you're about to go do a speech, or in my case,
finals.
I'm going to get on podcasts, right? This is when I know I'm going to travel or fly to somewhere like LA or Austin or whatever, and I'm going to be on 3 or 4 podcasts. I eat in a way to optimize cognitive performance because I don't care about anything else at that point. I'm looking for maximum cognitive performance. Same thing if I'm going to go do a talk in front of 500 or 1,000 people. And the best diet for cognitive performance, according to the data, and I find this to be true for myself, is a ketogenic diet. a very, very low or no carbohydrate, moderate protein, high fat diet has been shown in the data to maximize memory, cognitive function. It shows this especially with people who have cognitive decline. But in many people, like myself, I don't have cognitive decline, but I know when my ketones are high from being in a ketogenic diet, I just feel sharper.
It's very interesting, and to go through that process to feel it yourself and know, like, you know, running off of different fuel source like ketones versus glucose, it's significant. And for me, it is the sharpness, and it's the memory recall is definitely enhanced.
Totally.
I also think your added benefit to that, to the, you know, traveling and getting on podcasts and speaking, like you said too, it also tends to suppress my cravings because the carbs are low or non-existent. And so there's this desire I need to be eating every 2 to 3 hours.
Once you get into it, it's easy to follow from an appetite perspective.
Yeah, I feel like it keeps, so you're sharper, keeps that under control. You know, well, as I do, when you're traveling and doing stuff like that, like, you know, there's periods of time when you're not around, you don't have access to food, you're in an Uber driving from one place to the other, and then you're talking for 2 hours. And so it's like you have these stretches sometimes of 3-4 hours where you can't get to anything food wise. And what a perfect time for your appetite to be suppressed like that, not have those cravings, and then to also be mentally sharp from it is extra benefit.
Now, ketogenic diet is not great for strength and power and for building muscle. For me, if I'm trying to build muscle, I'm not going to go on a ketogenic diet. If I'm trying to maximize my gains, if I want to hit a PR in a deadlift or whatever, I'm not going to eat ketogenic. But for cognitive performance, this is amazing. So what I do when I'm going to go on these trips, unless these are like easy podcasts, sometimes I won't. But if I'm going to go and I want to really kick ass, I go into that day already ketogenic, and that's how I eat while I'm there. If I'm going to go do a talk, if I'm going to go to, last year I did a talk at the Peptide Congress. This is my first time doing a talk to a room full of doctors, at least representing Mind Pump. I went into it ketogenic. I'm going to be doing it again coming up here, and I think it's June or July where I'll be going back and doing that. Ketogenic diet in the data is, I mean, it's one of the best diets for cognitive performance. It just shows it across the board. Yeah, neuroprotective. The brain seems to be sharper. People can think faster. So if you want to improve or boost cognitive performance, if that's really what's important to you, then a ketogenic, experiment with it. Try it for yourself. Within a week or two, you'll probably notice some benefits. It's typically how long it takes.
And the reason for it being better for the brain, but yet not so good for performance, is the prevailing theory is just that and to oversimplify it, is that the brain it's like a cleaner fuel for the brain.
Yeah. Ketones the brain operates very well on ketones.
It apparently,
but when it comes to like strength and athletic performance, you want glycogen, right? So you have low glycogen.
Faster, right?
It's just faster. You could lift more, you're stronger. For bodybuilders, they get better pumps. But for the brain, like you take someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, right? So extreme cognitive decline, you put them on a ketogenic diet and you see improvements in their thinking. Now, someone who's healthy, what you'll notice is just sharper. Yep. You just feel much sharper.
And I want to add something, because I think this is another thing that, like, when I would teach clients, they would think that like this needs to be something that you do for months, or, oh, it's going to ruin. Like, let's say you have a goal of building muscle, and that's what you've been on, but then you also have the privilege to go speak somewhere in 2 days.
Yeah.
You switching to keto for 2 days doesn't ruin your performance goal.
No.
It's like you can do that for a 3 to 5 day, or just a day or two, and then go right back to the other diet, and you're not going to lose muscle, lose your gains, and not be able to get the benefits of keto. So you can move in and out of these diets based off of the even week by week or day to day type of changes.
That's exactly how I'm communicating here how you should use these. Now, I think if you've never done keto, do it for a little while, just so you can kind of figure out how it works. By the way, when you're doing it, make sure you bump your sodium. People talk about this keto flu. And they feel like, oh my God, I feel terrible. It's like, well, you need more sodium is typically what the case is, because it just pushes water out of your body, and you will lose you'll lose weight on the scale, but it's water weight initially. But yeah, 2-3 days of going keto leading into an event is typically all people need, and they'll have more more stable levels of energy and better cognitive performance. So that's the good cognitive performance one, is a ketogenic diet. Next, we'll get to strength and power. You want athletic performance, strength and power. Typically, this is what the data shows, about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and about 2 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. So a 200-pound man, 200 grams of protein, 400 grams of carbs. Fat makes up the difference for the calories. And the data just shows this kind of diet gives people the best athletic performance pretty consistently.
Now, hasn't some of the data showed that you even see benefits upwards to 1.5 grams of protein?
Yeah.
So you could push that even like
this is general.
I was gonna say that's a general protocol, but some people, especially people that do well on high protein, that digest it well, have no problems, could push the protein even to 1.5. If we're strictly performance, strength, building muscles, your focus,
really pushing that intensity to recover, I'm sure that would benefit.
By the way, I do want to add this: if you have certain health issues and one of these diets just makes you the healthiest, let's say you have gut issues and for whatever reason starches and carbohydrates bother you, keto becomes your best strength and power diet as well.
Right.
And I'm only using keto as an example in this argument because any diet, for example, is people who go carnivore because of extreme, autoimmune issues. Carnivore across the board is a terrible athletic performance.
But if you're fighting yourself from within.
But for that person, it's the best diet.
Well, if you asked Michaela Peterson if she performs better or lifts better in the gym on her carnivore diet versus on a paleo or any other diet for that matter, she would tell you that for sure on the carnivore because of her health issues.
That's right. Today's program giveaway is MAPS Powerlift. To win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we post it. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. We also have a sale on some workout programs going on this month. MAPS 15 Performance and the RGB Bundle, 50% off. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code MAY50 for the discount. Back to the show. Next, we have gut health. You're looking at improving your gut health. You would do what's called an elimination diet. Whole30 actually is not a bad place to start with kind of a whole, kind of that elimination style. But typical elimination diet, you're getting rid of common food intolerances. You're getting rid of a bunch of them all at once. You stay that way for about 30 to 60 days. Then you introduce one for 2 weeks and wait. Then another one until you find out what the heck is causing a lot of these
sugars,
problems.
Grain, gluten, dairy.
Typically, you're getting rid of grains, you're getting rid of gluten, you're getting rid of dairy, you're getting rid of legumes, nuts, egg whites. Like those are the most common ones. And then you start with, so you're eating very basic, and then you reintroduce one slowly at a time, just kind of see how you feel. And I've had clients do elimination diets many, many times. And sometimes it gets weird. Sometimes we cut out all those things and the issues aren't that much better. And then we start cutting other foods out and you're like, oh, it's bananas.
Yeah.
That was your problem.
Right.
Get rid of those.
Yeah. It's or some vegetable that's healthy for you. But
Yes.
It's like, it
you can do,
promotes a reaction.
Now you can do a test that will test, I believe, IgG antibodies, I believe, to give you a good starting point because it can get a bit individual. I know Dr. Cabral's team does these tests, and it's a good starting point. And what you're looking at is an immune response, not allergy. So you're not getting anaphylactic shock or anything like that, but just, sometimes your body develops, and there's lots of reasons why, an immune reaction to a particular food. And you just don't know it.
Well, wouldn't you also see that in spikes in insulin or with
sometimes,
a continual glucose monitor?
Yeah, sometimes you do. Yep. And what do the symptoms look like? They can be delayed. You can have a gluten intolerance and not notice until the next day. So you eat gluten today and then tomorrow you're just, I just kind of feel off. And it's hard to make the connection. So that's why elimination diet can be good, because then when you reintroduce it, then you're like, oh, there's that weird symptom that I thought, went away, Next up, and here's something that people don't often think about with diets. What's a good diet for spiritual health? Is there a diet that's for spiritual health? There is. Fasting. Fasting is present in every major world religion.
Yeah.
It's abstaining. And you see this in the Christian faith. You see this in Jewish faith. You see this in Islamic faith. You also see this in Eastern, spiritual practices. Fasting is across the board for thousands and thousands of years, the diet for spiritual health. And so now this is in combination with other things, but if you're feeling a bit lost spiritually, then you would combine this with prayer and practice. And that's just, it's been practiced.
Spiritual, I also think it really brings you back in tune with your body. And so you can really kind of pay attention to those signs and signals that have been masked by inundating it with a lot of food and just kind of going through your day-to-day process.
I was going to say, I would, obviously applies for that, but I've even had atheist clients that I would put on this just as a practice of detachment of because sometimes clients have this pull to food that they think, and especially you listen to our vocabulary around eating sometimes. Oh, I'm starving, because it's been 4 hours. You haven't eaten. Like, no, you're not. You're nowhere. You're nowhere near that.
Word for that. Yeah.
It is the wrong word for that. But yet we've all been conditioned that. We're all guilty probably of even saying that. I know I've said that before, just when I have a craving or I haven't eaten a little bit. And, it's very enlightening for somebody who's never really intentionally fasted for a day or 2 or 3 to realize like, oh, wow, this body is far more amazing than I thought it is. And I don't have to shuttle food in it every 3 to 4 hours. It could go for a long time. In fact, you start to notice once you get past that craving part and get comfortable with, I'm not going to be eating for the next 12, 24 hours at least. So whatever. You start to realize like, oh man, then you notice like the sharper, sometimes people feel sharper, they feel better.
You also feel free because you're like, oh, I'm okay. Yeah. I remember one of the first time I practiced fasting, what was shocking to me, I used to always, the term hangry, like, oh my God, it's lunchtime. It's 1 o'clock. I haven't eaten lunch. I'm irritable.
I used to use that excuse.
Yeah. I used to say the same thing. And I realized when I fasted, knowing I wasn't going to eat, that didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, oh, it's not because I didn't have food. It was because I anticipated eating and I didn't, and I had to wait an hour. So I wasn't irritable because my blood sugar's low or because I need to have food in my body. I was irritable because I had this anticipation that didn't happen. It had nothing to do with the fact that I was supposed to eat.
So true.
So wild. And so that's a very freeing experience because if you're someone like me who used to feed myself every 3 hours or 2 hours, I felt free. I felt suddenly free from this tyrannical thing called food.
That's the other client that this is great for. Because this was me. I was afraid that if I didn't eat protein every 2 hours, that muscle was going to fall off my body. I was certain of it. It was too when it happened. Right but the weight obviously water comes out, inflammation comes down, you get smaller, you lose a little bit of weight in the scale. So being the insecure skinny kid, oh my God, I lost all that muscle I worked so hard for, and so I had a bit of orthorexia with the eating every 2 hours. Those are great clients. I used to do it with a lot of competitors since it's common in the competitive world that they think you got to eat every 2 hours. And it's like, no, you'll be totally fine if we don't eat all day today and we go right back to your routine tomorrow. And so getting those clients comfortable with that, I think is very freeing. So those are probably the 3 biggest cases I see fasting.
Yeah. And then lastly, overall health. Now, when you look at overall health, this is based off our experience and some data. I think a paleo diet is just generally very healthy. It's fruits, vegetables, some nuts and seeds, and animal meats, and that's it. They don't even include dairy, but I think dairy will be okay if you can have dairy. But with those choices, you're eating a very, very whole food based diet. You're not even eating foods that require too much cooking, like grains. And in my experience, when I've had clients go paleo, overall they feel great. They just overall. Now it's not the best for performance, not the best for cognitive performance. But overall health, I think you can't go wrong with a paleo style diet.
Yeah, it just seems that it's easier to digest and like you don't have as much of a reactive response to it. And for long term, it kind of hits all the boxes for you in terms of like overall health.
Well, if you had to put me in a box of how I normally eat most of the time, even though I don't think I fall in any specific category, I would say paleo-esque.
Yeah.
I would say I eat pretty paleo. I add a lot more. I have rice in my diet, and I would eat oatmeal, things like that wouldn't be a part of the paleo diet. But for the most part, I would say, generally speaking, that I fall in that category a majority of the time. And then I move to these other extremes based off of very specific goals and times in my life.
I want to bring up a really, really common mistake that people make with fitness and diet. And it's so common that I think even some people are going to be like, huh? I didn't know you're not supposed to do that. And a lot of coaches will coach people to do this as well. This is a very common combination of tips or pieces of advice that go together that is actually inaccurate and wrong and actually can oftentimes causes people to stop progressing or to go backwards.
Stall further, yeah.
And that is to do this right here. Cut calories and simultaneously increase activity. Yeah. Especially high intensity activity. Yeah. They go together.
Or volume and training.
Yeah, they go together. People almost think they're supposed to go together, right?
Yeah.
I want to lose weight, so I'm going to dramatically cut my calories.
And I'm going to keep burning all these calories.
And I'm going to dramatically increase my activity, especially the high intensity stuff. That's the formula. That is a terrible strategy because what you've done, anytime you cut your calories, you dramatically reduce your body's ability to recover and heal. And now you're also adding stress on top of it. And so you're throwing two signals at your body that are saying stress, stress, stress. And what often happens when you do this is you'll get some initial progress, then you'll hit an incredibly frustrating plateau, and oftentimes lose muscle in the process of doing this.
The competitive fitness space has perpetuated this. Yeah. It baffled me looking around at my peers that they would do this. And I often got questioned by my methods of getting lean. I just thought, I mean, to me, it seemed logical. I'm reverse dieting. So initially, before a cut, you are ramping up the metabolism, increasing calories, building muscle, building the metabolism, right? Take any arbitrary number. You started at 2,500 calories, and then now I'm at 3,500 calories. So I've done all this great work. I've built, say, 5 pounds of muscle, which would be a great job in a bulk. I put 5 pounds of muscle on. I'm eating more calories, and now it's time to get shredded for my show. Like, okay, I'm gonna start to cut calories, but at that point, if I did a good job of reverse dieting, building my muscle, building metabolism, all I have to do is do that and let the diet do the work. I now, if I've done it correctly and I've built the metabolism up and I reduce calories, I don't need to add anything else. I am now in a deficit. And so allow the body to do its job, and it will start to lean out. It will start to tap into fat as its primary source of fuel because it's lacking in calories. Where we go wrong is where we do that, and then we also increase the volume of training or increase all of a sudden this high intensity cardio, and it's like the body freaks out. You go, oh my God, what is this? All this extra activity, and you're going to feed me less? Like it
conserve.
It does. It sends a loud signal that, oh my God, not only is he not going to feed me what I was used to eating just a week ago, but he's also going to push me harder. Yep. And it does. And it fools people because it might give at the initial swing, you get a little bit of a change, but then the body plateaus hard and fast because it's conserving energy because of how hard you don't need to do that.
And what's frustrating about this is that you have people in the fitness space that argue against this because they don't acknowledge just how complex the human metabolism is.
There's checks and balances all over the place in the human body.
And your metabolism.
They also argue it, Sal, because how resilient the body is, because it can take it. Yeah. Just because your body can take it and you can do it doesn't mean it's the smartest approach for a recon.
No, or you're using the example of, high level athletes or people with really good genetics who are relatively young, oftentimes on anabolic steroids or other performance enhancers. But I mean, the human metabolism has this wide range of how many calories it could decide to burn or conserve. It could also there's lots of other things that could determine where calories go, muscle, body fat, right? With the same lean body mass, though. So in other words, the same lean body mass, your body can decide to burn more or less calories. In other words, it can become more or less efficient. And when you cut your calories, you're sending a signal already to your body that says, become more efficient. That's what happens. So think of it this way. You have a job, you earn X amount of dollars per month, and you have so many bills. Suddenly, your income cuts in half. What are you going to do with your bills? You're going to try and reduce them. Yeah. So your body immediately, when you cut calories, no matter how good you do it, by the way, this always happens, your body's like, okay, we need to learn how to conserve more because we're taking in less. The same thing happens with dramatic increases of activity, especially activity that doesn't build muscle, okay? Activity like high intensity cardio. It's just calorie burning, which is fine, but when you send that high intensity cardio signal, the body also tries to learn how to be more efficient. So when you throw both of them at the person, and I'm not even talking about the compromised ability to recover from the extra stress, which happens from cut calories, it's a perfect storm. So this is a huge mistake lots of people make. They cut calories and dramatically increase activity. Terrible mistake that often results in, this is what happens, by the way, I've seen this happen to trainers, is they'll do this pursuit of getting lean, they'll lose weight on the scale, go get their body fat test, that actually went up because they lost muscle. Yeah. Or nothing happened, like what's going on? I'm eating so much less. And
it's very common because the urgency, once they get in that state to really, they think it's going to accelerate their results. And that's the misconception.
You know what's funny about this is bodybuilders, because bodybuilders there's a lot of things they do that's right. There's a lot of things that they do that are sometimes wrong, but they progress in spite of what's happening.
Totally.
Or there's some other factor that's happening that they're not quite understanding, and that's the benefit that they see. But bodybuilders in the off season, when they're trying to build, this is what's funny to me. They will do all the right things to build as much muscle as possible. They'll eat more calories, and they'll even do less volume of exercise in general, strength training, everything in general, trying to pack on muscle. Then they go into a cut, and the attitude is cut calories and dramatically increase activity. What's funny is the training that builds the most muscle in the off season is the kind of training and volume that you want to do when you're cutting to keep the muscle.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
You don't want to do more.
No, you're not
want
doing
to do
it
more, especially with getting less.
Yeah,
you're pushing more demand with less fuel. If you were going to do more or test pressing your volume or pressing your intensity, you do it fed.
Yes.
To see what you could do with it. So it's like, choose one or the other. It's like, okay, you want to try and lean out by doing some HIIT cardio. And so, okay, cool. Stay fed and do it. Let's see how your body responds to it. Okay, maybe it's not responding well. Okay, instead of doing that, let's just try to reduce calories and keep everything the same and see what happens. And then watch what happens. It's just this idea. I mean, it kind of reminds me, because I get it. Theoretically, it feels like it,
because everybody thinks it's just this plain formula.
Well, you know what?
Out.
Doug and I had this really cool experience. We just had to do the driving experience, and one of the things I screwed up on right away was right out the gates. I spun out, and his feedback to me was, you're throttling way too much out of it. You have to ease into the throttle. And I think, and it's such a weird dynamic, because you think, how would giving it less gas get me to the point faster? More gas has got to get me there faster. No, it won't, because the other things like your suspension, balance, steering, everything like that is to your point of checks and balances, says, no, that's too much horsepower, too much right now where you're currently at. And doing that, you're just going to lose traction, possibly spin out or spin your wheels, and you will not get to point A or point B any faster that way. Actually letting off and letting it do its job will get me to that place faster. But yet your body wants to do that. Like I want to more gas. That's what get me faster. And I think that's what they get caught in the same thing with exercise is like, I want to get to that leaner goal. So more has got to get to me faster. But
you got to fight that tendency.
You have to fight that tendency. And I think it is very natural for you to think that that's supposed to work. And what's even more deceiving about the human body is the resiliency of it. And that's where these coaches get wrong, because it annoys me when I see the coaches, and we have some in our own community that hear us tell that message all the time. The Mind Pump guys.
That doesn't really apply to
they're talking to a very specific set of community of people, and it's like, no, bro,
the average person.
No, bro, this is everybody. Yeah. Everybody has
high performers.
Everybody has a stress bucket. Okay, what is unique to everybody is what other outside stresses besides exercise that they are adding, so they can fill that bucket up a lot quicker than others. But everybody's got a bucket, and at one point that bucket gets so full that stressing more, which exercise is, dieting less calories is also another one, overspills on that bucket, and you're just not going to see the results. And so this is everybody, dude.
Yeah.
It ain't unique to a small group of people.
Yeah, and like when you look at the bodybuilding, a lot of like bodybuilding physique, like the competitive physique space, especially the high level, a lot of the information comes up from there and kind of disseminates, and you get coaches that get some of it, and then they're fanatical about it and they spread it out. A lot of it, they get away with a lot of it for a couple of reasons. One, they have crazy genetics. They just do. When you get to that high level, you're talking about people who they build muscle by thinking about it. They keep muscle on super low calories. Like, they're just really good genetics. Then on top of it, they're on performance enhancing substances like anabolic steroids and growth hormone, stuff like that, which helps preserve muscle. So they just get away with it.
That's all it is, too. It's not, by the way, they're not doing a great job at it, okay? No. Speaking from experience of being in that community for years, having hands-on experience of training them and also training alongside them, most of them aren't doing it right. And just because all of the people on the outside see the end result of the shredded guy or girl, and they're like, well, it sure looks right to me. Yeah. It does not mean that they got there the most effective way. They got there, but most of it, and we had a great conversation recently, Dr. Bickman is about this. It's like, it's because they have this crazy ability to just discipline themselves. That's just so rare.
Just suffer.
Yeah, all the signals that their body's telling them, they can ignore and just stay focused. And that was the biggest takeaway I had from being in that community for as long as I was these are some of the most disciplined humans I've ever met in my life. They're not necessarily the smartest. They're not necessarily really understand training and diet that well. What they are, and they deserve the respect for, their ability to say, I'm going to eat like this and do this day in, day out
By
without
all means
wait.
necessary.
Oh,
Yeah.
by any means, no matter what my body tries to tell me, no matter what, that's what they have. That's the superpower they have, is they have that discipline. And that's what really separates them more than any of the other things from their peers, is they have that ability to ignore that shit and keep going.
You know, speaking of stress, one of the best things you could do to improve your body's ability to adapt to stress or handle stress or build muscle or burn body fat, both adaptations, right? One of the because people ask us all the time, what's a good recovery tool? What's a supplement that will help me recover more? Nothing comes close to sleep. Sleep by itself, good sleep, does more for your body's ability to recover and adapt than all the other hacks and whatever combined times 50. Like, it's so important that if you get good sleep, your recovery will absolutely explode. But it has to be consistent. This is one of the most important things. And I think I know this, I've seen the data, people are chronically underslept these days. They really are. People just don't sleep well these days, and there's a lot of reasons for it. One of them being, the introduction of smartphones. I don't know if you guys have seen this data on sleep quality, is plummeted. Like, it got bad when electricity got invented. So people used to generally sleep a lot more, 10 hours a night. Electricity got invented and sleep went way down because, now the lights are on. We don't have a,
the light
gas lamp or whatever. So that affected it. Television degraded people's sleep. Cable degraded it even more.
Yeah.
And then you added social media and smartphones, but sleep, boy, that right there. That's why, I think, so we have partners that focus on sleep, like 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep is
best investment I've ever made by far.
8 Sleep, there's nothing as complete as 8 Sleep for getting you to get good sleep.
Yeah.
It is
creating the environment for it.
Oh, it's crazy. Have you guys seen what they did? I wrote down some notes.
Yeah,
with the new.
Well, the new Pod 5, they've upgraded some really cool stuff. And even if you don't have a Pod 5, even if you have the older generation, like I have Pod 4, they updated the software, and so the feedback that they're giving now on the UI, like the data, it's crazy.
This is what it is. So if people don't know, right? So it goes over your bed, and it's the temperature is controlled by the Pod 5. So, but that's not even the beginning. That's just scratches the surface. By the way, that makes a big difference.
Yep.
It will adjust the temperature based off of how you're sleeping, and it'll individualize it to maximize the temperature throughout the night to give you the best sleep. But it also measures, I wrote this down, it can detect snoring and adjust the position of the bed so it can keep you from snoring. Because snoring, by the way, it really degrades your quality of sleep. It detects abnormal heartbeats, disrupted breathing, changes in HRV. I mean, it literally, all the stuff that, everything, your deep sleep, your different REM stages of sleep, and you don't know this, you just go to bed, and then based off of all these measurements, your individual measurements, it will adjust itself, and within a day or two, it'll learn how to maximize and give you the best sleep you've ever had.
This is the best part about it, because this information isn't like brand new. If you own a Fitbit or these other tools, they measure a lot of those things also. The difference is, what does the average person go do with that? And the AI adjusts it for you. So it's taking all that information you're saying and it's scoring you. Oh, I had 80% here, 70% here.
It's like a sleep coach.
And yes, and it's modifying the temperature to improve all of that until it hones in on like what gets you the best sleep. It's incredible. It's by far one of my favorite partners that we work with. Obviously, I know we love all of our partners. We wouldn't work with them. But there's certain things that I'm like, I love, but it's like, oh, if I go without for a while, it's not a big deal. Then there's other things like, I have to have my, the time that mine went down was like torture for me to not have that. I didn't realize. And it's like that person that you don't know what you have till you don't have it type of deal. You know what I'm saying? And you realize, God damn, I did love her. What happened? You know what I'm saying? it's like I didn't realize how much until they're gone. That's how I felt like when the 8 Sleep was down. I was like, damn, man, I didn't realize. I mean, I knew I loved it, but I didn't realize how much I did until I didn't have it.
That's how I feel whenever we're not working. And come back to work. Oh man,
you long for us.
You long for us.
Just Justin. Oh, okay. You guys, I don't care. You guys, no, I read an article. I think Vanity Fair did it. I'm going to pull it up. You ever read? Yes, of course you have. I love reading articles where I start reading it and I'm like, who wrote this and how did this become political?
Oh, I think I know what you're going to bring
Bro, this
up.
is Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I
No
can't
idea what you're bringing up.
believe food has become political. It started happening a few years ago, and it's just ridiculous. It's silly. Everything's political now.
This is about protein, right?
Here's a title: Why are Americans so obsessed with protein? Blame MAGA. What?
Why are they throwing all this nonsense out there?
And they're talking about here's a subtitle: From the Liver King to the Podcast Bros. I like how they call them the Podcast Bros. It's just label
all of them.
label,
Nice,
yeah,
pejorative.
like the most popular podcast or just media in the world.
Nothing
like Joe Rogan.
intelligent could come out of a bro.
From the Liver King to the Podcast Bros to RFK Jr.'s Maha constituents, America's infatuation with protein has reached a fever pitch.
Oh my God.
And it's ready for this. It gets better, and it's undeniably gendered. Oh God! So what?
Protein's an essential macronutrient. Shut the fuck up.
You know what sucks about this? That they call it gendered. And what gender do you think, by the way, they're pointing to with all that?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Let me ask you guys this as trainers, okay? Trained lots of people for 20 years. You have male and female clients. Who is more likely to benefit from bumping their protein up?
Women. All day.
Yes.
All day.
This kind of information is terrible.
It's such a setback.
Because it's going to harm women even more.
Totally.
A bunch of like young girls or women who are not privy to the benefits of protein, who probably are under eating it anyway, are going to read this and be like,
I don't want to be associated with MAGA.
yeah, so I'm going to eat even less. Women oftentimes, more often than men, undereat protein, the results of which are less muscle, more body fat, and hormone issues. And so women benefit more than men often, when I've trained them, from bumping their protein. Articles like this calling it gender.
I don't know, man.
Calling it MAGA, it's like ridiculous.
I'm calling it backfire for sure. This message is too late. It's too late. The fact that muscle mommy is a term and it's popular amongst young women is too late, dude.
They're scrambling.
Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah.
This tactic might have worked 10, 15 years ago. In fact, it probably would have worked pretty well 10, 15 years, but that shit ain't going to work no more. I feel like the fact that women are
right.
on to, I mean, generally speaking,
You're right, because who reads Vanity Fair anymore?
And
what's healthy prevails always.
When was the last time you talked to a woman that said she wanted to look like 80s model skinny? You might hear it once in a great while.
Yeah.
Once in a great while, you might hear it, but not like we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, that was common, what you would hear as it described what you want to look like, right? Where I don't hear that at all. I hear, and I get it that we have our own
what I hear
bubble
now?
that we probably live in.
You know what I hear now? I want to lose weight and build muscle.
Yeah.
I hear both.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just lose weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, dude, because as I'm reading this article, and it's comical, you guys, like they're talking the
so
podcast
silly.
bros, which is funny. Are we in that category?
Well,
Joe
they're
Rogan
just
is
looking
definitely
at
that.
something to dig at. Yeah, because Joe Rogan's such a loud voice. And
Yeah.
I think that they're just trying to find an angle that will divide people from, that's always the case. It's like fear and division. It's however they can promote it.
Yeah, and I mean it's so funny, and it's only men who care about protein. It's like, come on, guys, that's not true.
Well, here's the other thing: like the whole fat at any size thing, like is already taken.
healthy at any size.
Well, whatever.
That's Justin.
You can be fat at any size. You can be skinny and fat. So
that's true.
I back
That's
that
a different-
statement.
that's a
I
different
back
one.
that statement. But what I was referring to was actually healthy at any size. And you see, like even Lizzo's already losing weight. And
really?
That was the big face of the whole thing. And so
You can't let her get skinny.
Right, you can't have that happen because now your whole ideology like crumbles in front of you. So
I hate. By the way, I hate some of the quotes that they put in here from certain scientists. Like, here's a quote: "Is there any evidence I know of that getting your protein from whole food is inadequate, or somehow it's better to get it through protein powder? I don't know of any evidence to suggest that." Here, okay, there's a difference between what is adequate and what is optimal.
Yeah.
Okay, it's rare that a man or a woman in a modern society is eating so low a protein that they're not getting enough amino acids and their body's breaking down. That's rare.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't happen. Usually you get enough protein to not die.
Yeah.
But that's not optimal. And the data on what is optimal is 2 or 3 times higher than that typically for things like muscle gain, fat loss, hormones, longevity, cognitive function, immune system, like you name it. It's just better for you. So, but the fact that they twist it a little bit and say, you're getting adequate protein. You don't need any more protein. No, you don't need any more protein. But if you want to optimize your health and your performance on stuff, then
well, you do if you're sitting across the table from me and you're saying my goal, Adam, is to build 5 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
You do.
Yep.
If you just said, Adam, my goal is to just live, not die, like, okay, your protein intake's fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to add 5 pounds of muscle to your body where it's currently at, and you're struggling with that, 99% of all the women that I trained,
they did not eat
enough.
No.
And it was the first easy go-to move was that and lift heavy. It was like switch her over from her kind of circuit-based class training to traditional strength training, 5x5 heavy loaded exercises, and add protein. And it was like
boom.
magic. Like right away, you would see a huge shift in their physique, and they would feel it and see it. It was life-changing for them.
By the way, speaking of like protein powder and stuff like that, so creatine is getting a lot of recognition right now in the medical community. I'm seeing it more and more for as a first line and adjuvant, compound for depression, in particular in women. Yeah. In particular, 5 grams. 5 grams they showed in one study. Other studies.
Now, do you think a perfect segue from the previous conversation to that is probably because the reason why in women it's showing such great or profound things is because most of them
I know where you're going.
undereat protein.
Yep. So because creatine,
it's just like how you used to compare vegans. Why is it so profound in vegans?
Yeah.
Why? Because they undereat on protein.
Yeah. So animal meat will contain creatine in it. So the less of that you eat, the less creatine you get. But this is pretty amazing that it improved depressive symptoms significantly with people who were just doing cognitive behavioral therapy. They weren't on other medications. They just did therapy with the creatine. And now women in particular benefit from creatine for what you said. And they also just store less creatine or less ATP in the body because they have less muscle mass.
I also, you predicted this already, and I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon because I think we're going to see what we're going to see. And I remember this curve, right? So when creatine first got really popular, when we were young trainers, right? There was the loading phase, and of course the supplement companies were pushing you to push the numbers up, and then you would go down here, and then it was like 10 to 20 a day for a week, and then you drop down to 5, and you need five a day. And then a lot of the research came up and said, 3 to 5 is probably what's best for most people. And what's becoming more popular from the cognitive side is we're seeing upwards of 10 plus.
Yes.
So I think you're going to see a resurgence in that, in the recommendation being, because it's like, well, shit. Yeah, 3 to 5 is probably pretty good for everybody else, but it doesn't hurt to do 10, and we're actually showing all these benefits. I bet you're going to hear more and more.
It doesn't even really saturate the brain until you get about 15. Right?
So I think you're going to
5 grams for muscle. 5 grams a day for muscle. 10 grams, 15 for brain.
The general recommendation I think is just going to be much higher. It's going to be like, why not? It's it's relatively inexpensive
and it's safe.
It's like, why not take 10 to 20?
Tolerate really.
And so exactly, I think you're going to be.
There was one study where they took
that.
Rugby players, they put them on 15 grams a day for a year, saw no changes in no negative changes in any of their organ function, kidneys, or anything like that.
And they're getting a lot of impact. I'm sure that.
Well, what I mean is just that there was no negative effects.
No digestive issues.
I don't know if you're talking about brain function.
No, but for that, they're actually showing it's probably, especially if you're in impact sports.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, we have a free guide. It's the benefits of eating whole foods. This gives you a shopping list, what foods are best for proteins, fats, carbohydrates. There's recipe samples. It's all based on real, whole, natural foods, and it's a free guide. It's totally free. You can get it if you go to wholefoodsguide.com or by clicking on the link in the description below. Speaking of supplements, I was reading up on the history of ginseng. I've brought this up on the podcast before. They'll call it like the master or the king herb or supplement. Do you guys know how far back we have recorded evidence of use of ginseng for health? How far back?
Oh, it's got to be a long time.
5,000 years?
Yeah.
5,000 years.
5,000?
5,000 years. We have recorded evidence of
what does
people.
that look like? Just pictures on rocks?
There was I should look. I got to look it
How
up.
do they
I forgot.
That's back when dragons were flying around, dude.
That must be ginseng they're drawing.
This guy, dude. No, it was. I can't find it now. I had it written down. But it was. I believe in India there was some recorded something that they found that showed that people were using ginseng.
Wow.
So it's been used for thousands of years in Asia. Native Americans prized it in the 18th century because some people brought it here, and there's also American ginseng.
It's funny. It comes in waves. I mean, do you guys remember when we first started as trainers? That was a very popular, very, very popular.
It's been popular for a long time.
But I mean, I feel like it makes it makes the news for a while, then you don't hear about it for a while, then it makes the news again. Like, what is it about it that is it because people are similar to creatine? They're finding other use cases for it. Forever it's been for energy, right? That's kind of like Chinese medicines use it forever for general energy and overall health, mental clarity, vitality.
Yeah, so libido, energy as an adaptogen, improving the body's ability to.
It's considered an adaptogen.
Stuff. Oh yeah, it's like the original adaptogen. Look at this: the history of ginseng and the management of erectile dysfunction in China, 3,500 years ago.
Wow. No, that's 3,500 BCE.
Oh my God. Yeah. Even more.
So that's 5,000.
That is insane.
Wow.
That's insane.
They were having boner problems back then?
What does it look like?
Just a bunch of pictures.
Yeah, so it's good for erectile dysfunction or libido, both in men and women, energy. Athletes have used it forever. But it's one of the longest used like supplement, if you will.
Is there, Sal, like, I know I think it's one of the main ingredients that's in Joy Mode, right? They put
a really, really good extract of ginseng in there, but they have other things in there that improve blood flow.
Any downside? I've never tried to double up on that dosage.
Of the Joy Mode?
Yeah.
Oh, I've taken two a day. Not two at the same time.
At the same time, though.
No.
Any benefits? Any drawbacks?
I'll use Joy Mode for energy. So it's non-stimulant. So there's no caffeine. I know, Doug, you do the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So no caffeine, no stimulant. So if I'm done with the caffeine for the day, or if I'm doing a low caffeine
Justin
day,
and I've used it pre-sex. I've used it like that, and it's
you
solid.
like it?
It's fun.
Yeah, it's solid. I mean, that's why I'm curious. Like, what would you do? And I just want to make sure there's no adverse effects before
energy
and
If anyone's tried to,
that's what I figured. I figured for sure you've already pressed the upper limits. Like, is there? And I guess where I'm getting at with this,
I've never used it
in regards to vitality, libido. Is there an upper limit? I would imagine Joy Mode is probably already putting that much in there.
Yes.
Do I get no more benefits after I hit a threshold?
I don't think you'll feel good with a ton. But I know the arginine extract that they use in there. I can't remember what they call it. There are other things in there that improve blood flow. I think too much of them might give you a bad tummy.
Yeah.
But ginseng, you can go too high.
You don't want that before sex. That's a terrible mood killer right there.
Bro,
nothing like,
you don't want those sounds.
Nothing like a mood
when
killer.
You're laying down, it's like, it just ruins the mood.
It's the worst.
You don't want to do that, Justin. Not why you're trying to do it. No. Yeah. So, Doug, pull up the ingredient. Oh, arginine nitrate. That's what it is. That's a really, really good form of arginine for blood flow. By the way, it's as a supplement for getting a pump in the gym. Also very good.
This is another company, by the way, that for the audience that doesn't know the history of our relationship, that we kind of laughed off at first, and then I remember you did a little bit deeper dive on it. You used
they're legit.
Yeah. I always like those. I think that's kind of cool. There's
a couple companies.
There's a couple brands.
Keep them around if it actually works.
That at first we were very dismissive of it, and then the more you looked into it or researched it, you realize like, oh, actually, this has got some legitimacy.
Speaking of research, Justin, I know you know about this. I'm sure you do.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the conspiracy theory around art? How there was a psyop a long time. Have you heard of this?
I don't know. Tell me.
So you've heard the term beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a BS statement because there is objective beauty.
Yeah.
There is objective beauty.
It's a mathematical equation.
And if you look at...
It's like symmetry.
What's the one artist that just does like splatter paint that...
I don't know.
Yeah, so they thought that all of his work is just like...
Yeah,
it was
a psyop.
A psyop.
So if you look at like... You go to a cathedral or look at like especially old churches, right? Thousands-year-old, whatever. It's beauty. Everybody knows this. You go see, like, I remember when I went to see the Duomo in, I think that's what it's called, in Milan. Like, you're looking at this, it's just breathtaking, right? And they made this so long, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
Like, there is objective beauty. And then we started getting into modern art where people, and I feel like people pretend. I really think that they're acting. Like, you'll see some of the stuff and people stand in front and be like, this is profound.
Makes me feel this way.
And I'm like, it's a red line. What are you talking about? This is just my kid could have done this. That's the joke.
Well, the value is so made up. Like it's all like relative to what everybody agrees to, and so it's a weird thing, and you don't realize how much like black market stuff is happening behind the scenes. And so it's like
like
this, it could be like $1 million painting. You're like, wait a minute, really? And you realize like they're paying them underneath for something else,
So they
as
can
a
launder
money
it.
laundering.
Yeah, like you're selling drugs to Justin.
Yeah, that
and
part
he
I'm
buys
familiar
your
with.
painting.
There was a whole Netflix series on that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but I'm aware of that. I'm
Right.
familiar with that. It's a great way to launder money.
But the theory was that they went in to just to confuse people and to make us believe as part of a larger project that there is no objective truth. And part of that is by convincing us there's no objective beauty, that art is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And art performances. You ever read articles like these weird performances people do where they're like,
Yeah.
this is me expressing myself.
Or they sell the invisible art.
Yeah.
That
What was
one's totally
what was the
jumped
one
the
that
shark.
like you just sold not that long ago? I brought it up on the podcast on too. That was duct tape banana against the
Yeah,
wall. It sold for like, or the guy who did the NFTs sold for like $1 million. It was nothing. It was like space. He sold like air.
Yeah.
Like, it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so
At
wild.
that point, what are you talking about? What is this? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think it probably stems from a money laundering first. I think it's a creative way for
I also
people to-
think people fool themselves or they want to believe it because they go with their friends.
you want to feel special.
And yeah, we're so like,
Yeah.
we're so smart.
We've got
Or I don't know.
we have the inside track.
Yeah, we know art. You don't know art, and then they go and they're like, "This is amazing." Like, wow, look at this piece. It's profound. And then the guy next to him's like, "I don't want to sound like an idiot." Like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
totally.
can really see like the depth in that." You know, and it's just like a black, square, with some speckles on it or something like that. You know,
There's a lot of pain.
yeah. They must have
Underneath
felt a lot of. Yeah, and that's the title of it. Pain. I can feel the pain.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so
Must have been a
I was
dark
reading
place.
about this, and I'm like, I kind of agree with it. Like, at what point did we start to believe that beauty wasn't like objective? That it was like this just.
Well, there's an argument to that too, even with architecture, and they
Yes.
started to get into brutalism, and that kind of pervaded a lot
that?
of. So it's like cement, like all like
Show me, Doug.
very fortress looking type houses.
you know what? All you got to do is look up Soviet era buildings. That's
Yeah.
what you got to look up. So like,
It's called brutalism.
I believe so.
I'm not familiar with that.
so it's like if you were in the Soviet Union when they
Yeah.
were just trying to build like square brick living places and offices and just looked drab and nothing was great. It was all gray.
Yeah.
And they're trying to argue it's all about function.
Yeah.
But it's not. That's brutalism right there.
Yes.
that doesn't look but terrible.
Not too bad.
horrible.
Well,
What
that
is-
one
so
right
what-
there. That one right there on the left.
Yeah, the one on the left looks terrible.
Yeah, it's just not.
So what? Yeah, some of them look all right. What was the like? What did they try and make the argument of that it was like they were
Because the underlying theme is that there is no objective truth. It's
Yeah.
all your truth is your truth.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
There is no objective good. There is no objective beauty. There is no any of that. And it's all it's all a construct. So if you really want to
it's all a
expand
big
your mind,
psyop to sell you shit.
yeah. So and they're just trying to break it all down.
Yeah, that's funny. You know, I funny Mac story yesterday. Oh my god, this guy's too much right now. This is, if I could probably encapsulate a period of time, I have to say 5 to 7 years old has got to be one of the coolest. I knew it going into it. I'm in it now, and it's moments like these where Katrina and I just get a good laugh, and we pick him up from school, and he's in the back seat. Daddy, are broken hearts real? Yeah. Can you have a broken heart? Is that his big thing now? He's learning the difference between like things that are made up and then things that are real.
I remember I thought a sweet tooth was real.
Right.
just-
So exactly.
just
So
for
like,
him,
so he's obviously he's connecting the dots. So this is what I love. I'm watching it unfold, right? And it started with things like, are dragons real or are they made up? Are they? So it's like all the stuff he's seeing on TV and learning and hearing about. It's like he's always questioning, like, is this made up or is this real? And so, can you really have a broken heart? He asked me. He goes, Daddy, can you really have a broken heart? And so I'm like, God. And I love when it throws me out. Obviously, answering dragons is easy. You know what I'm saying? Answering broken heart's a little more difficult. And so I'm like, yeah, son, you can have a broken heart. And he's like, well, what's the difference between sad? So if I'm sad, I have a broken heart. And I said, well, it's a little bit different. How? Well, let's say it's raining outside and daddy can't go outside and play. So I'm sad. I don't have a broken heart, but I'm sad I can't go outside and play. So it's not the end of the world. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm sad. So I'm sad, but not a broken heart. And he's like, okay, what's a broken heart? And I go, Okay, if Daddy came home one day and Mommy said, "I don't love you anymore," that would break Daddy's
terrible.
heart.
No,
I said, "No, it gets better,
like,
bro."
why'd you say
So I said, "Well, it was like the first thing that came
His
to my
eyes are
mind."
like this
What are you
big,
doing,
dude.
bro?
It's like,
oh
I'm
my
like-
God, that can happen. If your mom died, for example.
It's like
Oh.
so we find out the sun's not going to be.
I
Forever.
thought that was better than saying dead, right? I
explode.
thought, like, if Mommy said she doesn't love me anymore, that would break Daddy's heart. And he goes, "Well, Daddy, do you know how to fix your broken heart?" I said, "Well, how, son?" He goes, "Just marry somebody else."
Wow.
Katrina's in the car. She died laughing. I started laughing so hard. Like, this kid is too much right now, dude. So I just, when he catches me off guard is the most enjoyment I have. Answering easy ones. But when I get hit with a hard one, like, what do you say to a broken heart right away?
What would I have
That's funny,
said? I
dude.
would have said, well, it's like being really sad. So it's worse than sad.
Well, that's what I did. I
Yeah.
said, sad, I can't go outside and play.
It's really
but
it's,
you
it's
get
paired with love, right?
I mean,
So
give me
you love
you got
something.
he's going to ask you, give me an example.
Do you
So-
like something or do you love, you know?
I can't go
a
outside
person?
for a month. Now
Yeah.
my heart's broken. I don't know what I'm
No,
Your
yeah.
mom just said.
Yeah.
That's funny,
Your
though.
mom said she doesn't love me anymore. That
He's
would
such
be
a smart kid too. Don't
Yeah.
you love hearing how they think?
Oh, I do. That's it's so cool to watch. And like I said, I know where it's coming from because in the last couple months, there's a lot of like things right away that our mummies, like we watched Scooby-Doo and there was a mummy. And so he's just like, "Daddy, are mummies real?" And so then I had to kind of explain like, well, mummies are real, but they don't really come
don't
alive.
come
And
alive.
they don't come alive and chase you. So that was challenging to explain, you know? So
I feel like you'd like this show. I kind of got into it, and I think it's called like You Can't Ask That or something like that. It's on Netflix, and it's an Australian show. And you know how like they've had Love on the Spectrum, and they kind of these things like. I feel like I don't know they figured something out like in Australia where they're just like really good at these social kind of experiments, really like documentaries about people and like interesting people, and so it's like they take just random groups of people like in people with disabilities and just people that you know think completely outside the box, even like polyamorism or like you know like just like taboo subjects. And then they take like, you know, 5 or 6 people and they interview them all in separate rooms and
things you're not supposed to ask that
see,
group.
and then they get these card deck and then they answer and then they read it and then they answer these crazy questions that are being
Oh,
thrown
that's interesting.
of like what you've always wanted to ask somebody, for instance, who's blind or something, and like you
that
know
you're not supposed to ask or whatever.
yeah, like you're not or like social awkwardness, like do I actually like. Is it good that I asked to help you across the street, or do you get offended by that? Or you know, like like weird stuff like that. It's just it's interesting because you learn too. Like one thing in terms of like blindness too that I picked up, but I didn't know, and I actually asked Courtney.
You're not supposed to grab their hand. You allow them to grab your hand.
Yeah, well,
Something like that, right?
well, you definitely always ask like coming in. That's you know that's because they actually said some people just grab them and they're like, whoa, it's like being assaulted. You know, you don't because they can't see you coming. You know? But no, what it was about actually how they got blind. Like, and it was a common occurrence with like at least like 80% of them was when they were babies, they were preemie, and they actually gave them too much oxygen.
Oh yeah.
And so, but Courtney said now too, like as a treatment for that too, they've found out that like caffeine actually like counters a lot of that effect.
Interesting.
So and it also like helps with the mucosal lining somehow, and it has protective qualities to it. But anyway, it's just interesting. I didn't know that like
That was a common reason for blindness is too much oxygen. When they're being born?
when they're a preemie, yeah,
Oh, when
They
they're
go
preemie.
give them oxygen.
yeah, they give them
Yeah, too
oxygen
much
because their
oxygen
lungs aren't
is-
fully developed yet.
Too much oxygen is toxic.
and then it causes blindness.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, and there's just like stuff like that, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was a lot in with
What not to ask on Netflix.
yeah,
check
it's
that
really
out.
interesting. You guys would like it.
Did that's hilarious. My son, you remind me of a story. My son, there's a girl that one of our friends has a daughter that's 5 years old, and he comes over and he goes, "Hey, Papa," he goes, "I like her. She looks like a good wife." I'm like, what?
He's already targeted.
Yeah, dude. No, Max talks
Like,
about
all right,
Max
bro.
talks about being married and stuff now too.
She looks like a good wife.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? I'm afraid to ask you what he means by that. dude.
Yeah. What does that mean?
You know, with
You
deaf
should
people,
peer into that.
you know, we have technology now where there's certain kinds
Cochlear
of
implants.
No, there's certain kinds of deafness that we can like fix.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? One of the most when they do these surveys on people who finally get their hearing.
Oh, bro, those are so. It's hard not to get emotional when you watch somebody the first time.
Like a little kid.
Yeah.
Oh God.
You're their first time getting their
What's
hearing.
interesting too is like they describe with blindness and also like they describe what it actually is. Like, so it's like it's a fuzz or like what they actually can hear.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, it's so interesting because it's like, and they hear clicking and stuff, but they don't really hear. So it varies across the board.
You know, one of the most common misconceptions or misunderstandings or beliefs that deaf people have, that when they can hear again, they're like, oh, I didn't know that would be that way. You know what it is? They all think that the sun makes a noise.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Now think about that. If you looked at the sun and you never heard anything, it would look like it's like making some kind of noise. Yeah.
Like radiating.
And they're surprised that it doesn't make noise.
Oh, that's kind of wild.
Yeah, I read about that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, some of them they didn't like. It was too much. It was too much. So they went back to like the silence
Because you just have to learn how to. You have to process it.
You have to big time. It's a big adjustment.
It's wild.
Before we wrap up here, I wanted to remind our trainers that we have a 3-part series dropping
Oh yeah.
on May 19th.
May 19th, 3-part bonus series for trainers. And then on the 9th, and then we have a webinar on June 3rd. You can go to trainerwebinar.com. It's free. I'm going to teach you how to close deals. But go May 19th, listen to all 3 of those episodes. We're going to teach you some good stuff. Children's multivitamins are just glorified candy for the most part, except for a company called Hiya. This is not candy. It's a real multivitamin. And yes, your kids will still take it because it still tastes good. But it has adequate nutrients, the ones your kids need. This is the multivitamin we use with our kids. Go check them out. Go to hiyahealth.com. That's HIYA health.com/mind pump. And on that link, you'll get 50% off. All right, back to the show. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by Mind Pump Fitness Coaching. This is the #1 course that teaches trainers and coaches how to build sustainable 6-figure plus businesses and careers in fitness. Look, it's roundtable based, so you can hear Adam, Justin, and myself teaching you how to build a better business, get more leads, close more deals, close bigger deals, and be more effective trainers. By the way, our course is nationally recognized. In fact, it gives you 1.9 CEUs with or for your NASM certification. Find out more at mindpumpfitnesscoaching.com.
First question is from Slow Run Meg. What do you guys do to keep up your strength when resting an injury?
It depends on the severity of the injury
And where it's at.
Right. Isometrics, sometimes you can do, but I will add this: like strength loss and muscle loss comes back so fast.
Yes, it does. A lot of times, just rest recovery is the best move.
Yeah. In fact, I'll make a case for that, Justin. The faster you can get back to training normal, the better. Therefore, your #1 goal when you have an injury is healing. It is not preventing muscle loss. It's to heal. That's the #1 goal that you have.
I think this has changed for me. Early years as a trainer, this is probably a question that I would ask or be trying to solve is like, oh man, I tore my ACL. Like, how do I not lose the chest gains and the shoulders that I built? And I'd be trying to do all the things. Totally would not be I got injured not that long ago. I get injured. I'm just like, I'm going to take the time off. And I also think there's something to be said about it teaches you that you also need to kind of modify other parts of your life. And there's probably going to be times in your life, right? Unless you're an anomaly or like Sal, where you never miss, that you just fall off of training and you're not doing it consistently. And so long as you learn to modify your eating and maybe your activity level, i.e. walking, doing physical labor, other things, then there's not this massive swing. Sure, I might lose a little bit of muscle. I might put on a tiny bit of body fat, but it won't be a major swing. I can take a whole month, 2 months off, come right back. As soon as you get right back, that muscle comes right back on. You get right back in shape pretty quick. It's the dramatic swings that we go through where we are so consistent, dialed in, doing all the diet, and then an injury happens, or you fall off the wagon for a month, and then you eat like shit, you don't move, and then you have this crazy weight gain. It's like, actually, if you just tweak a few things, you're injured, you're not training as hard, you're not moving as much. Okay, I better scale back the calories a little bit. Hey, you know what? Now I'll probably just go for some walks since I can't really push the weights right now, and do that. And then what you'll see is like you don't have these crazy swings up or down, and the body is crazy how quickly it gets back to right where you were before. It's hard to reach new PRs and new levels, but to get back to where you were is really easy.
Yeah, and you know what's good, by the way, with injuries, that also simultaneously helps with muscle is red light therapy. So red light therapy helps heal injuries faster, also simultaneously promotes strength gain. So that's actually a really, really good tool for something like that.
Next question is from Lindsay Ant 32. What should you do if you are reverse dieting but see weight gain?
It depends how much weight you're seeing, because some weight gain is expected with the reverse diet.
It's going to happen.
Like I 4 or 5 pounds, that's fine. You're talking 15 pounds, 10 pounds, go up slower. Stay at a caloric level for longer before you start bumping in, or bump up slower. When I would bump people up on reverse dieting, my calorie bumps would be between 100 to 200 calories typically. If I saw like big changes, then I could do as little as 50, just very, very little. But about 100 to 200 is good. So if you see a lot of weight gain, slow down.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you pointed out that you're going to gain weight. I mean, that's part of this process. You're eating more. You're taking in more carbs. You're probably taking in more sodium. You're probably taking in more water. All those things result in your body having more water, more glycogen inside it, and then it's going to reflect a little bit on the scale. All I'm looking for is massive swings or consistently adding weight. If I even seeing you adding a pound every week on the scale, I'm still not that worried. A pound, every week. So in 4 weeks, we've only put 4 pounds on. Not a big deal. But if I see 4 pounds in the first week, and then I see another 2 pounds, and okay, we're probably moving too fast, right? Like we got to scale back. But being comfortable when you're reverse dieting, you have to learn to be comfortable with putting a little bit of weight on. And the other thing is that also what kind of weight. Because if you do a good job of adding good calories,
could be muscle.
It could be muscle, and like that's not a bad thing at all. Even if you went up 5 pounds, if 4 of it was muscle,
that's great.
You're kicking ass, So keep that in mind also.
Next question is from Shall We Fitness. When taking NSAIDs to treat an acute injury, will taking NSAIDs to treat an acute injury completely negate gains from strength training?
No. So NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Ibuprofen, naproxen, aspirin. They reduce the inflammatory process. The inflammatory process is also involved in signaling muscle growth or repair. So it probably will reduce the muscle building signal, but it doesn't completely negate those gains. So it's not like you take ibuprofen. It's like I wasted my workout.
Yeah.
It's never.
If you guys had to put a number to it, because I know the study and the research to this that scared people away from that. It's like it's definitely not ideal, but it's not like
it's minuscule.
Yeah, it's tiny, right?
It's the studies are with chronic use.
Like that's the thing, yeah. And I think this is where people are being misled. It's like it's not like a few occasions where you're actually in pain. You're medicating some pain. Two, what about like the following preceding workouts and like to be able to recover and bring your inflammation down and be able to move and then also build upon that. I mean, that has to factor in.
The studies that were done on this, where you see is either A, they're looking at a signal, which the signal doesn't always, like a blunted signal, doesn't always translate into, significantly less muscle gain. But the ones that show like increased risk of tendon rupture, there's studies on that, right? Lots of NSAID use over time can contribute to that, or reduced athletic performance. Those were done with people who used them chronically. And what do I mean by that? They would take them every time they train.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I can't move properly unless I take this. So I take this as a pre-workout essentially to be able to do my workout. And they've done it for years.
It's ritual for them.
And even then, it takes you from 10 being your best potential ability muscle to 8. It's not like it
But this is like
down.
over the course of
I know,
like
but my point is even that person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is also it's similar to the people that like stop a good habit, like doing cold plunge because they saw the study that said it blunts. It's like you still could build muscle cold plunging after a workout. Is it ideal? No, but it's like there's also other benefits to you cold plunging. Just like with Justin's point of like, if that helps you the pain, numb the pain to get ready to do your workout the next day, like, well, you probably wouldn't have worked out had you not taken it. So then you have to.
There's some cases where, I mean, look, heavy, consistent NSAID use, probably not a good idea. I think long-term use has its risks, isn't good for you. But there's cases where, like, someone's got to perform. Like, you're an athlete and you're in season, and it's like you don't have any options. Well, okay, you got to, you're not in a healthy place to begin with. You're competing at a high level. then you got to use these types of
It
things.
seems it's totally parallel with icing after a workout, with athletes. And I know that was another one that kind of scared people.
Icing, far safer. I would obviously far safer. But yeah, I mean, the studies again that show this, these are people who use them chronically for years and years and years. But if you're going to use this for like a month, a couple weeks, like I wouldn't worry about it.
Nah.
Next question is from MFS Wellness. How do you see AI affecting the fitness industry? What are the pros and cons that can come of its involvement for trainers, nutrition coaches, and their clients?
AI is only going to help
Yeah, you guys said, do you see any cons?
trainers and coaches. When it's going to become a potential con is when your online AI coach is indistinguishable from a person. Like they literally, like you can relate to them, you trust them. Like you can't tell it's not a human. Well, then every job is at risk.
It's gonna weed out the weak ones.
But right now, all it's going to do is it's going to take a trainer and it's going to allow them to scale. It's going to allow them to figure out nutrition plans. It's going to allow them to manage their business, write copy for social media, know how to put together a post. Like it's going to make one person as effective as 5 people if you know how to use it right. But it doesn't pose a risk. There is no risk.
Yeah, I don't think that at all. I don't see this any different than pre and post step trackers, metabolism things. I mean, your Fitbits, your macro counters, all these, they're all tools and tools to make you better at your job. AI is the same way too. I don't think they're going to replace humans. And
I want to be clear. Like, okay, can AI write a better workout than what Google used to do? Yeah, way better. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're a trainer and you think that's your value, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Your ability to write a good workout is a part of your value, but it's a small part. The bigger part of your value is how you relate to the person. How do they trust you? Do you have a good relationship with them? Are they able to follow your guidance? A good trainer with subpar workout programming, but who also gets good trust from their clients and buy-in and is and the client feels like they can divulge information with them. They get grace from them. They want to follow them. It's going to be far more effective than a trainer that writes the best damn workout programs but doesn't have those.
We're
things.
a perfect example of this. MAPS Fitness Products is the flagship product or thing that scaled this business. It doesn't exist without the conversations on the podcast.
Right.
It is awesome programming, right? It's the best out there. I stand by that. I'm a little biased, but that's what I think, right? But does not sell what it sells without the podcast.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's people buy that from us because of this conversation that's happened for 10 years. That's why if it was just the program by itself and put out into the ether, it wouldn't.
Terrible business.
Yeah,
you get free workouts.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work. So it's no different at you as a trainer. Just because AI could potentially assist you at writing a program or not,
Or write up a meal plan.
right, or do whatever it can do. Like it's not going to replace the conversations that you have with your clients and all the variables and the nuances and the personality, all the things that make the show it is what makes MAPS Fitness products
I think
successful.
the real risk when this all becomes a big challenge, again, is when AI is indistinguishable from a human. But that's going to be a weird time and everything.
And we have a lot of other problems. But
that's what I'm saying. My big problem is going to be, what am I going to do as a trainer? It's going to be like,
Yeah, there's a lot
is that
more
a human?
existential
Like,
things
what's
to think
happening?
about.
Are people going to get married anymore?
Yeah.
What's happening?
What am I doing here on Earth?
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. One of the keys to fat loss is protein. It's true. If you're not eating a high protein diet, you're not going to burn as much body fat as you can. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the smartest ways to use protein for fat burn and to build muscle. You got to watch this.
I wish I understood this earlier in my career. I think it was probably almost 10 years in when I started to just focus on this with clients.
I knew it was important,
Yeah.
but I don't know how important.
Yeah, I knew it was important, but I also didn't